What is the difference in psychology in working like a main event as compared to an undercard match?
I don't think there's much difference. The only thing is, I think you have to respect the main event, and you can't do things that they're going to do. You can't undermine them, because they are the main event. But I think you can do whatever you want. It's your match. You can tell your own story. You can do whatever you want. Like I would never be offended by Rey Mysterio doing some of the most beautiful high spots in the first matches with whoever he worked with, and I'm on last with Bad News. I mean, it's not going to affect anything I'm doing. I think you have an obligation to always give the best match you can, especially if you've got a really good crowd out there, and to make yourself and make your opponent, especially if you can do it without hurting yourself. But you don't want to be, if you're if back in my dad's territory, like I remember being in a cage match or a chain match with somebody, and the first or second match we'd go out there and have a bloodbath. You'd go, what are you doing? You're just killing me in the main event to make it really hard for me to, I have to cut my own head off to get a reaction. So you have to be careful that whoever's below you they don't do things, or, they don't take away from what you're doing on last, because you are more important. And sometimes they don't respect that or appreciate that, because you get a lot of guys in the opening matches want to be up there in the main event, but that's not your decision to make. It's the promoter's decision, and that's just the nature of the business. You have to work here, you have to pay your dues. But I would never do things that to undermine somebody else that's on after me. But at the same time, I think that's an open book to do whatever you need to get yourself up to that top spot someday.
As far as working tag matches, what is the psychology of working a good tag match as opposed to a bad one?
Well, there's a whole different psychology to tag matches. One of the teams that stands out in my mind that had great psychology, but it was a little, it was Arn Anderson Tully Blanchard had great psychology. And they did a lot of stuff that was, they were sort of, if you sum them up, they did everything that every good heel team did through the 60s and 70s, like the false tags, the switches, without middling the referee and stuff like that. They were really switch places and tag in and out and work a hold, and they were really good that way. And I think a lot of people could go back and look at that. But the business has changed. Like I know that I thought that as good as they were, and they were good, and they stood out because they were good. But I'd also seen it all before. I'd seen every spot. It was like watching every heel team that had ever worked, especially in that Charlotte territory, I think, in those days. It was probably no different than, what some of the great heel tag teams were doing for years and years and years. I think tag team psychology is really no different than anything else, in the sense that you got to try to keep it real, and you have to work the tags, and you can't false tags and stuff like that, and middling the referee. You have to measure all that stuff and make sure that you're not doing it too much. And if you end up where the referee's got all the heat because he couldn't keep control, and you're making a mistake that way, you have to do it in a way where it's not overkill. It's hard to say. I think that's my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. It seems like the tag team wrestling has lost a lot of its spark the last 10 years or so.
Totally.
And it's a shame, because it's a totally different psychology, and a tag team match can have as much suspense, a different kind of suspense than any other match on the card, with the false tags and the switching around and double teaming and stuff like that. If it's done right and you have great teams, there's no reason why they can't resurrect it. If it's, I hope they never lose sight of those kind of things, because it's an art. Tag team wrestling is an art in itself.
What is the difference in psychology, I guess, when you're wrestling someone once, knowing that you're going back to the same town next month in a rematch, and maybe even a third time?
Well, you never want to repeat yourself, which is where guys like Flair, like I said, you do the same match every night for 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. I always I don't know that they remember everything a month later, but when I worked for my dad, we were back in the same town the next week. So I think I learned to add a lot of different things to my repertoire of my matches, which also gives, you got to go back to basics sometimes, like, sitting in a hold and making people believe that you got a headlock on. Like in the old days when I started, it was easier you could take somebody over in a headlock and they weren't shouting boring as soon as you did it. They'd sort of let you kind of build your case for realism in those days. But I guess it's important not to be similar all the time. I know I get people that comment about I used to do the same signature moves all the time at the end, and people think that that's some way of saying that I wasn't very unique either. But my logic and my attitude, and I always understood that, I said, it's not. If I'm going to use these 3 or 4 or 5 moves all the time to finish my opponent, why would I change them just to, so people don't say that about me? I'm not worried about what the fans say. If it was a real situation, you keep your 4 aces up your sleeve and wait to use them, so you could win your match. And that was always my logic, and I think it makes sense to me anyway. So, but I think you can't always go back to the well and do the exact same things all the same, exactly the same as you did the last time. Like I always like to, throw a twist in there. Maybe when I was going for I'll say the backbreaker or something, I'd have them rake my eyes and get out of it.
Right.
And in the middle of the comeback after, so that we could, throw a couple more twists and turns. I think when it comes to psychology, I think it's really important to remember that you don't want to do what the fans think you're going to do. Like if the fans know that you're going to get thrown into the turnbuckle and you're going to go upside down and you're going to straddle yourself on the top like Flair, and then you're going to run down the apron and you're going to climb up and you're going to stand there and the guy's going to give you a gut shot and peel you off the top. But anytime the fans can predict what you're going to do, then you're not a very good pro.
Do you feel it's better for the babyface or the heel to set the pace of the match?
Oh, for sure, the heel. The heel drives the car.
Okay.
The heel drives the car, and if you're a good heel, you should drive the car. Babyface can't control that at all. He shouldn't try to control it. He should. The only time the babyface should have a lot of say in what he's doing is when he's, when you're champion. I think you have to. You have to take the responsibility to. At least when I was champion, I always thought that it was my duty to protect myself for the company's sake, make sure that I, got everything in that I needed to be that star of the company kind of thing. But a good heel, and if you're working with somebody that's green that can't do it, then you have to lead them along and guide them. And, it's really important to have a heel that can drive the car. If he can't drive the car, then you have to help him steer it. But I mean, the heel, even a heel that's not so great. I mean, if you lean over once in a while and kind of help him with the steering wheel, you're going to go a lot further. Because a lot of times it's just a matter of, they say you're both working for the same objective. And you're not in competition with each other in the sense that the heel, it's his job ultimately to make you look like $1 million. And the babyface should just help him do that.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.